Good morning.
Good morning.
Glad to see all of you here. I started to say you might want to rearrange there so that you can get closer to throw rotten tomatoes if you decide. Anyway, since my talk is authenticity this morning, I decided to release my inner colorful woman. And I have always been an inner colorful woman, but disguised it with black for about 50 years. So this morning here I am in all black. Anyway, earlier this week, and some of you may or may not read Facebook and the UUCH page. Linda had texted me. Linda Ernst, thank you for keeping us on track here. She had texted me or something, I don't know, email, one of those communications. And she said, how do you want me to introduce you? And she said, as a health educator. And I said, no, don't worry about it. I said, I'll take care of that. So I really started thinking, So this is what I came up with. Milkmaid, pig slopper, cow fetcher, calf puller, garden planter, harvester. Come on, you're supposed to laugh here. Lamb resuscitator, snake counter, molasses maker, pea sheller, bean breaker, apple peeler, potato digger, egg collector, beehive robber, duck wrangler Mike, hay stacker, tractor driver, water carrier, grass cutter, fence builder, cattle herder, seamstress, wild strawberry picker and jam maker, mechanic assistant, butcher, and chicken executioner. Oh yes, by the way, in high school, I rode the bus 1 hour and 45 minutes each way, 5 days a week. And in spite of that, my Spanish teacher, after the second year Spanish, she says, Wava, I knew I had all this time to study, but it just didn't come through there with my Spanish. She says, Wava, I really wouldn't recommend that you take the third year. I said, don't worry, Miss Phipps. It was never in my mind. So, anyway. But this morning. This talk this morning comes to you courtesy of the Blessing Box. And I have told you a number of times the things that I have found in the Blessing Box. Sometimes it's overflowing with great things. Sometimes it's overflowing with clothes that I would not wear to slop the pigs. And I find tracts from different churches and encouraging people to come to their revivals and books and one thing and another. And so I go through. And this one day, I found this little book in the back. It's called Just Open the Door, How One Invitation Can Change a Generation. And it is by Jen Schmidt. Well, I started opening it, reading it, and it's extremely, extremely religious. Everything is God-based and all of that. And I thought, there's some pearls of wisdom in here, and I can adopt this liberally, very liberally, and pass on these words of wisdom. And she does that. She does have a lot. And of course, we all talk about acceptance of one another. So, Schmidt says, hospitality has the power to change a generation. I know this is a bold declaration, and I don't want to offer it lightly. I genuinely believe we can change a generation with something as simple as an invitation. As a result of working through heart-to-heart interactions of hospitality, friendships are formed, relationships are restored, and outsiders are welcomed. Hospitality trains and teaches the art of listening attentively to others when they are speaking. By not always feeling the need to react and respond, we understand the power behind someone's story and how to begin to tell our own. Hospitality is a communication exercise. We model how to engage deep conversations around the table. We learn to tap into critical thinking skills and how to facilitate higher level discussions by the continuous art of asking good questions. Smith encourages us to elevate the ordinary. Have you been meaning to call or text a friend, but have been putting it off? Get your phone. Let them know you've been thinking of them. Better yet, write them a note. It's such a nice surprise because this just doesn't happen much anymore. When we overstress and overthink and overplan inviting others into our lives, hospitality becomes overwhelming to the soul. With radical hospitality, Ryan Dunn writes, we let go of a need to shape people in our own image. We extend hospitality when we include people within a community without an expectation that they will fully conform to it. Radical hospitality sends a message beyond "you are welcome to join us." It says, how can we be with you? Extending hospitality is about freely giving of ourselves while granting others the freedom to be themselves. In shifting our focus from us to them, it removes unnecessary expectations. No need to worry about what to say or how to act. Just be who you are. Be authentic. In the New Testament, hospitality is said to be a distinctive mark of the Christian church. Early believers took seriously the command to use their homes as a place for extending grace to others. It doesn't have to be your home. You don't have to just meet somebody somewhere for coffee or lunch or to sit by the river and sip a glass of wine. The winery is a great place for that too. Stop striving for the unattainable and stop worrying about what others will say or think about you. Focus on your one-person audience. Our souls long for an invitation to be included and welcomed. We possess a hidden longing for rooted relationships that journey through life with us. And by the way, these take work. You have to make an effort to maintain these relationships. We need someone to acknowledge and see us where we are. No hidden agenda. Can you think of someone you could invite for coffee or lunch? When we lived in Christiansburg, I was a member of Business Networking International. And one of the activities that we did was called one-to-one. There were probably 30, 40, 45 members in our group. It was a group of entrepreneurs or people who represented areas in the business, real estate, insurance, the whole nine yards. And the one-to-one, it was up to us to make connections. sit down over a cup of coffee, get to know the person, get to know the business. So when you heard someone say, oh, I really need to have my roof replaced, then you could suggest someone that you feel comfortable in recommending because that you knew they would get a good job. Our goal was to make that connection. And it worked. And I still we've been gone from Christiansburg since 2010. And I still keep in touch with a number of those people. And Lord, I learned so much about what to look for in a roof on a cold day. So anyway, get to know one another and what makes them tick. All of our circumstances are unique. One thing remains true across the board. Living a life committed to kindness and intentionality will mark your life in untold ways. We all have those coulda, woulda, shoulda, everyday moments where we fail to remember that each person and interaction is special. What we do with our next choices, with our do-overs, is what will define us. Take a do-over. No regrets. Leave the past behind and focus on being intentional with your next steps. We all have those regrets when our intentions were there, but our follow-through just didn't happen. We live with those regrets. We look back and wish that we had let others know how important they have been in our lives. But we end up expressing this at their funeral or at their celebration of life service. And wouldn't it be nice if they knew, well, maybe they do, I don't know, but if they knew what we were saying and how much they had impacted our lives. Is there a do-over in your life that you may need to embrace? It's almost never too late for an apology and second chances. C.S. Lewis tells us the rule for all of us is perfectly simple. Don't waste your time bothering about whether or not you love your neighbor. Just act like you do. And hopefully like you too. Look for opportunities. Pay attention and seize the moment at the grocery store, at work, with neighbors, or wherever. You have the opportunity to be the difference in someone's ordinary day. A simple smile, a kind word, works wonders. When we lived in Richmond, I worked for a corporation that owned 7 Golden Skillet stores. And a Golden Skillet was basically a Kentucky Fried Chicken. And I learned a lot about what to do in business from this boss, but I also learned a lot about what not to do in business from this boss. You definitely pay your federal income taxes, but anyway. Vendors were always calling for non-payment, especially in the off-season as the office manager. Guess who got those calls? And when sometimes, it was really bad. They would threaten to shut us down. And you've got employees with 7 stores. Lordy, anyway. In the copy room, there was a sign on the door, and it said, "Don't let the bastards wear you down." And I still think of that sign often when I encounter rude people, road rage, little league, bullies. Now let me tell you, if you can survive 3 years as a little league president, you're qualified for anything. I know. Schmidt challenges us to be the difference for one person every day. There's nothing you must do or change about yourself. It's often our smallest steps repeated over time that hold the most significance. Don't underestimate your impact. The sweetness of community is found in the simplicity of the ordinary. A cup of coffee, a glass of tea or wine, an open and listening heart. Simple steps can change the way we do community. Elevate the ordinary with any reason to gather for food and conversation. For our UUCH, and especially the summer is just around the corner, getting to know you one-to-one like we did in Christiansburg, it is marvelous. Getting together for a book club, a book group, I'm getting ahead of myself here, so I have a tendency to jump ahead sometimes. There are so many simple bridge-building ways to strengthen relationships. A legacy writing workshop. And as I mentioned earlier, a book club. And I don't know if you have read the book, What Happened to You, the Mended Women's book that Anne Cunningham left. Well, let me tell you, that is one of the most powerful books I have ever read. And I intend to start a book group with that book for women. Nothing personal, guys, but I can tell you, you are a whole lot more willing to share one-to-one in a women's group. Now, you guys can get a men's group together, Mike, and that'd be great. But I do this. Another one was that is exceptionally powerful is The Gift of Imperfection by Brene Brown. They're both extremely powerful. You know, perhaps we could have a table for book sharing after we read a book and leave it on the table back there. And if no one wants it, we pass it on to the library. The UUA encourages small group ministry and getting to really know one another, as you know, I'm sure Kathy has been, and several of us have been part of the small groups. Everything is better when you do life together. We build community and camaraderie. We learn more about our diverse backgrounds, experiences, and lifestyles. When you know more, you can more. The power of one never grows old. The beauty that stems from life on life, one-on-one relationships. Each of us have unique gifts. Life is a choice. Do I desire to maintain the status quo, or do I desire to make a difference? Think about it. Are you already making a difference? I'll bet you are. Only by extending the boundaries to welcome more variety and diversity into our midst do we begin to unearth the uniqueness that others bring to the conversation. Only by developing real relationships with those who are different from us can we begin to address misperceptions that persist. We must listen to what others are really saying, even those with whom we disagree. Are we really listening to understand what's being said, or are we listening intellectually, formulating our own answers without fully understanding why they may feel this way? Hot topics today include abortion, guns, immigration, education, and politics. Sun Tzu, a 6th century BCE Chinese general and influential military strategist, wrote the book, The Art of War. Some of you may have read that. This book has affected both Western and Asian philosophy and military thinking. He writes, "Know your enemy. If you know your enemies and you know yourself, you will not be imperiled in 100 battles. If you do not know your enemies nor yourself, you will be imperiled in every single battle. Only by developing real relationships with those who think differently from you can you begin to address the misperceptions that persist. When you allow the imperfections of our friendships to strengthen us, we develop a sister brotherhood of the imperfect, of vulnerability." In her book, The Gifts of Imperfection, Brene Brown writes, "The experiences that bring the most meaning to our lives are born of vulnerability. The most profound gift of friendship and hospitality we can give is the assurance that you are welcome exactly the way you are." The humanhood of imperfect friendship is all about sharing simple moments that we are often too afraid to admit. Fear seizes us. We don't want to appear vulnerable or weak. To share our struggles is difficult, yet one of the greatest gifts you can give one another is your imperfection. Our stories are gifts we must share. We must allow our authenticity to bond our community. Vulnerability serves as the most true gateway to community, as well as the real and abiding friendships. We must seek to create an environment that makes it okay not to be okay. It's during the most difficult times that we need one another more than ever. We aren't meant to do life alone. We are meant to share our story with someone else. We can't let our circumstances keep us separated from the community that we need. Schmidt tells us, elevate the ordinary. Traditions are the we always of family or community, of our heritage. Invest time into cultivating a strong sense of identity by establishing meaningful traditions throughout the year. These anticipated traditions can create strong communities that will keep folks wanting to come back. There's something incredibly unique about the concept of home and community. We know it's not about the building or the structure. It's bigger than that. No matter our past wounds, no matter our past poor decisions, no matter our previous family history, there's a longing knitted into every single one of us to find a place to call home. From my heart, I have found a home with you.
Thank you so much.